Jimin fast! Yelled while slapping his arm slightly. Jimin glanced at the passenger seat where Wan was sitting like she was on the edge of a cliff. Her eyes forgot to blink in tension and breathing became shallow. There was no time to lose. He increased the speed by downshifting to third gear, causing the engine to roar in response. He pressed down on the accelerator and shifted up to fourth gear, causing the engine to growl deep and increase the speed of car to a ridiculous level. But where might he be? I don't know. Wait a minute. Jimmy slowed down the car for a moment to hear her properly. I think I know. Let's head to the Han River. Franz, why would he go there? Just take me there. As her concern for Tai grew, she frustratingly pleaded Jimin, who nodded and complied. At the Han River. The dark clouds started gathering in the sky, and soon after it began to drizzle, his voice growing hoarse with desperation. Scanning his surroundings with a desperate gaze, he kept running over the bridge, where he last remembered her standing on the railing. His hair disheveled, his eyes had tears, but mouth was drying out with each passing second as the level of his anxiety increased. The passerby gave him curious glances, some whispering to each other, but no one stepped forward to help. He kept mumbling, "Be safe, please," as if she could hear him. He kept reminding himself that she had to be somewhere close. She had to be safe, otherwise he don't know what will happen. He felt as if his world was coming to an end, and he could not understand why. He thought of himself as a man who was loyal and devoted to his deceased wife. But now these newfound emotions were telling him otherwise. But at the time, all he wanted was to find her, keep her safe and near to him, and then ask his heart for the answers he was afraid to know. Where are you, Ryan? He yelled once again, but only met with silence. Frustration boiled within him, threatening to spill over. He could not recall what happened after he saw her trying to jump. He don't know why he did not stop her at that time. He don't know what happened to her. Is she even alive or not? He had no idea. His breathing was becoming uneven, his thoughts were driving him insane. Yet he kept running maniacally, forgetting that he was running barefoot on the rocky bridge, getting fresh wounds and leaving a path behind. Suddenly, a faint sound caught his attention. A muffled wail, almost inaudible, but it became clearer and desperate as the source reached him. His heart skipped a beat. Tears that had been threatening to spill until now flowed out and mixed with the rain, leaving his eyes red and sore. It was her. He knew it was her. He slowly turned around and let out the deepest sigh of relief. Ryan whispered with trembling lips and let out a small smile, even though he was crying. She rushed to him and pulled him in a hug, leaving behind hesitation, and without wasting a single moment, he wrapped his arms around her and pulled her closer to him, engulfing her in his embrace. She patted his back, trying to calm him down, as she could see what a mess he was being. They did not mind their wet bodies pressed against each other, since they found solace in each other's embrace. What happened, Dai? I am all right. I'm here, tried to soothe him. Why? His voice breaking. He called her name but could not get himself to speak further. He kept sobbing on her shoulder, trying to figure out why he was feeling this way. Asked him to continue, still patting his back. I thought I lost you, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. I was so scared. Whispered and hugged her even tighter. Shh, I know, I'm here. Why did you? I'll tell you everything. For now, just know that I am okay, you are okay, everything is fine. Gently patted his back, which soothed his racing heart. Came running towards them, as one had run faster and reached there earlier than Jim. Bro, what is this? Upon hearing Jimin's voice, her eyes widened and she broke the hug right away. She looked down in embarrassment and murmured, I did not intend to hug you without your permission. It's just, I was scared. Thang just turned his head to the other side and sniffed, trying to control his sobs. Jimin stood in front of Thang, paused for a moment, bent down, and placed his hand on his knees, trying to catch his breath. Tang felt more embarrassed as he thought what he would say to Jimin now. He can't say that he saw Wan standing on the railing trying to end herself, as she was standing in front of him, all fit and fine. He wondered what if it was all a part of his hallucination. But how could he tell his friend that he believed he was going crazy? He was thinking about what he would say to Jimin once Jimin had caught his breath and stopped panting. Meanwhile, Jimin straightened up, grabbed Tang's collar and jerked him while questioning. "What do you think you are doing here barefoot? Do you even know how much you have?" yelled in worry. Tang stared down at his feet in disbelief, as he did not even realize the pain he was bearing all along. Jimin left his collars and hugged him. "I want it all to stop now, Tai. I just want you to be happy," spoke softly as if he is pleading God to let his friend have a happy ending. Tang mumbled a small story into Jimin's ear, but the tired tone of his voice indicated that he had no control over the situation and was exhausted. They broke the hug upon hearing the female beside them. "You can wear my shoes," pointed to her feet. Both males looked down at her feet only to find her standing barefoot, and a pair of cute small joggers lying in front of Tang's enormous feet, ready to be worn and torn by him. Unexpectedly, the both males burst into a fit of hysterical laugh, making Vine confused and annoyed. "What's so funny about my shoes?" offended. "Nothing," laughing. "They are just too big for that," kept laughing while holding his stomach. Vine frowned and looked at Tang only to find him cutely giggling as he stared at her shoes. Upon being the reason of his smile at the time of his sadness, she felt honored and a spark of happiness delighted her heart. Yet she decided to bury her feelings inside. "Goodness, in this era, that's a joke," sarcastically joked while showing her petty expressions. Tang chuckled and pushed his wet hair behind, looking even in this situation. Meanwhile, Vine stared at him with her mouth slightly open. "Stop drooling, Vine." Vine slapped Jimin's arm and spoke. "I'm not drooling. It's rain." "Yeah, sure." Jimin and Vine were acting as if they weren't scared too a moment ago. At that moment, they did not want Tang's condition to get worse, so they were acting all chill, dumb, and number. Jimin took off his shoes and made Tang wear them. Even though Tang was reluctant in the beginning, but he had to let his guards down in front of his stubborn and worried friend. They started walking back towards their car while Jimin made Tang walk with his support as the injured feet made walking difficult for him. One was walking in front of them but stopped and turned to face them, and Tang said something to her which made her cheeks grow pink. "You are wet." Jimin and Vine both looked at Tang in shock, interpreting his word in a twisted way. "How do you know?" Eyes wide open in shock. "Isn't it obvious?" Frowns while scanning her up and down. "Is it?" Also looked at Vine. "Yeah, stop looking, you both. I'm not wet." Rushed up to her cheeks and ears, and her whole face flushed red. "Obviously you are wet since it is raining." "Oh, what were you guys thinking?" Confused. "Nothing." Started walking towards the car while trying to avoid each other. In the car, Tang was lying in the back seats with his eyes closed as he was exhausted, while Vine was sitting in the passenger seat. "Vine? Are you sure it's multiple personality disorder? What else it could be?" "I mean, it could be the souls of those people haunting him. Are you serious? Looked at him with I am done with your gaze. We should call an exorcist. How about we try a dose of common sense instead? As I'm afraid our issues are a bit more down to earth. Rolled her eyes and gestured him to keep his focus on the road. I was just stating the possibilities. Pouts. Don't ever dare to try to use your brain. It's risky. At home, Vine was once again studying his case in her room. Things were less complicated now and she was thinking to take a step further in his therapy. Vine's POV. I think I should tell Taeyong that he is dealing with a mental disorder, because only this way he will be aware of his problems and maybe even try to remember his old self. I've also noticed that Taeyong's personalities change as his emotions change. Like when he gets angry, he becomes the mafia. When he's sad, he becomes the depressed father. When he gets overwhelmed by the weight of his responsibilities, he becomes workaholic CEO. And whenever he is feeling relaxed and naughty, he becomes his brother. First, finding a balance in emotions is important, and it won't be possible unless he knows about this situation. But will he even understand? If I tell this to his CEO personality, he will declare me as an insane woman and fire me. If I tell this to his childish personality, well, he won't even take me seriously and will ask me to seek therapy instead. His mafia personality will most likely me after being offended. And his depressed personality? Oh yes. At least his depressed personality will try to understand me. He seems sensible. I was about to stand up to go to his room as he was probably still in his depressed state. But the door creaked open and he entered after asking for my permission. Such a gentleman. I just love it. Ryan, get a grip on your emotions, women. He cleared his throat to get my attention, so I looked at him. He was standing in front of me while facing down as if he was standing in front of his teacher in punishment. Please sit. She gestured towards her bed while turning her chair to face him. He nodded and sat on the corner of the bed, still gazing down and biting his lower lip. Looked like he wanted to say something, so Vine spoke. Do you want to say something? Looks at her face. Yeah. I don't know if that was my hallucination or reality, but I saw you standing at the edge of the bridge. Pressed his lips as his eyes twitched, threatening to let out a pool of emotions in form of tears. It's true. Why? His lips trembled and voice became barely audible. Don't you remember? I don't, and it's scaring me. Let out what he wanted to say for so long. I forget things more than often, more than normal. I find myself at places I don't remember going. I find myself doing stuff which I don't even remember starting, and it all feels like a dream. I'm at a point where I can't even tell the difference between the reality and dreams. Looked at her with a scared gaze, pleading for help. I remember you were trying to jump off from that bridge, and somewhere I think I was the reason. A tear trickled down from his left eye, and he wiped it hastily, being afraid to cry in front of her as this time the rain won't cover his tears. Do you trust me? Taeyong nodded his head while looking down. Then let me ask you a few questions and everything will become clear. Okay, gently answered her. You mentioned losing your wife and daughter in an accident. Where are their pictures? Looked at her and frowned. I had their pics in my phone and camera, both of which got destroyed in that accident. But why does no one have their pictures? Not even your mom. And what about your wedding photo frames? They should be in your room. Or what about your wedding suit? Where has everything gone? Asked him in a calm tone. Thought for a while. I don't know. You don't know because nothing like this exists, Ty. That's all in your head. What do you mean? His eyebrows crashed together as he became perplexed. The outer mobile searched for something and showed him the screen. Remember this? Zhang grabbed her phone and grimaced as he scrolled through all the photos and videos. They were his and Vian's, enjoying meals and amusement park rides together, which he don't remember at all. But those pics and videos were a solid proof that she was not pranking him. When did all of this happen? His heartbeat raised and several questions raced in his mind. Read this, extended his reports. He hurriedly took the reports from her hands and read them, trying to find answers. His eyes grew wide upon revelation, and only one question escaped his lips. Who are you? Stared at her with a questioning gaze. One stood up from the chair and sat next to him on the bed, and his face kept turning in her direction. I'm your psychiatrist, and I'm living with you to treat you, to help you. Gulp. So everything is a lie. I had no wife, no daughter. And you're not even 30 years old. You're 28, quite young, isn't it? Tried to diffuse his tension. I'm grieving a lie? Why? What about all those memories I think I lived once? Cold sweat broke out from his body, making him shudder. It happens. You are suffering from a trauma due to your accident, but you will get better with time, trust me. She told him everything except the demise of his brother, as it could be too much for his brain to process. But that felt so real, referring to his non-existent family. Takes reports from his hands. You need to let go of everything and rest there. Deep down, he felt the weight of unwanted sadness falling off his shoulders. He somehow felt ease after knowing that everyone was a hallucination, since it helped him to get freedom from the guilt he was feeling for having something for Vian. Got lost in thoughts. But you did not tell me one thing. What? Why were you trying to kill? I wasn't. You and your childish personality gave me that challenge, to stand on that railing for 3 minutes. You could have stopped me. Embarrassed. You are stubborn, okay? When I tried to deny, you tried to stand on that railing instead. So to stop you, I had to do that challenge. You should have slapped me. I did. Remembered how she slapped him in the church. What? No, I mean, why would I do that to a gentleman like you? I would never. Innocently shook her head, smiled at her. After a moment of silence, Tang spoke. I must have troubled you a lot. I'm sorry. Yes, you did. But it's okay. You're cute anyways. Tang looked down blushing and Vian chuckled looking at him, fidgeting with his fingers, getting all shy. So, I'm going. Good night. Bye. Still sitting on the bed. Bye. Waiting for him to go. Clears throat. Can you do it again? Do what? Raised brow in confusion. Hug me. Vian was caught off guard, but she found his anticipation cute and smiled before going in for a hug. She hugged him and listened to his fast heartbeat along with hers. He trusted Vian's words and felt relieved after knowing that all of his pain was a part of his hallucination and that someone besides him was eager to help him. They were feeling comfortable in each other's embrace, but after a while he said something which made Vian to break off from the hug instantly. Why are we hugging, Luna? Did you say yes for being my girlfriend?